Before I became a full-time YouTuber, I was trusted by some of the biggest brands in the world to edit their videos. And even with years of editing experience, almost every single time, it was my first time cutting that type of video. I had never cut a sports promo before editing one that played in front of hundreds of thousands of people. I hadn't cut a single music video before cutting for some of the biggest names in the industry. When other editors asked me how I pulled it off, I found myself always giving the same answer. So I'm gonna share the 5 levels I go through every time I have to start all over again. Each level builds on top of the previous one and lets you confidently edit any video style. Even if you're just starting out or you've never touched that style before, you'll walk into it like you've done it 1,000 times. This video is made possible by Happy Editing. When I first started getting hired to edit in a style I had never cut before, the first thing I did was panic. Because where do I even start? What do they expect from me? You can't edit what you don't know, so I always start by watching. And I watch a lot. It doesn't matter if you're cutting real estate videos, event recaps, or some guy explaining why his crypto trade changed his life. Every type of video has a structure. Now, let's say you got hired to edit short-form content for a coach building their personal brand. That'll be the example we'll run with for this whole video. Now, first thing I do is look up what other coaches are posting, because I want to scope out the competition. Watch a lot more than you think you need to, because you'll notice a pattern starts to show up. Maybe it's how they all have jump cuts, word-by-word captions, or numbered lists. Now, you know the bar. This is the minimum viable product your client expects of you, and you have a place to start. So watching everything tells me the average of what they expect of me, but clients don't usually hire me to make average work. So we need to raise that bar. This next level requires us to get picky and to look for the best videos in that genre. In our case, we want to look at the coaches doing the best, the ones that have the bigger budgets, higher production value, and better performance. My goal is to find videos that make me think, damn, I wish I made that. I bookmark them and save them in a folder I can reference from. This is really important for the next level because we don't want to learn from average. This next part was probably my biggest struggle in my editing journey because for most of my career, I would just sort of edit by vibe. Some things I tried would work and some didn't, but I was never sure why. And that changed when I began to dissect all the best videos I watched. Think of it like figuring out a magic trick, which is kind of funny considering how most of my career was cutting magic promos and educational content. I spent like a decade trying to figure out how illusions were put together, and it turns out it's the same instinct you need for this. Because sure, these videos might have more money, more crew, or just more time than you, but every trick has a method. And once you see how it's done, you can learn how to do it yourself. So what I do is I take the videos I bookmarked, throw them into my editor, and go frame by frame, which is actually the name of my online community. If you don't know about that, more info in the description below, but thank you to this month's Kaizen members. Okay, but what I do with the video is, as I said, I go frame by frame and I pay attention to the pacing, the framing, the camera movement, graphics, VFX, music, sound effects, all the nitty-gritty building blocks that make the video what it is. All those little decisions add up, making you feel something the first time you watched it. The reason you bookmarked it in the first place. Now that you watch it as a researcher, your job is to understand why every decision was made. Pick it apart so that you can use it yourself. Just like the scouting phase, you might start noticing a pattern. And when you keep seeing the same trick being used, that's when you know you're ready to perform it yourself. At least, I wish it were that easy. Just because you know the trick, it doesn't mean you can pull it off. This is the skill gap. You've now identified what it takes to get there, but you just can't make it yet. I was honestly quite lucky. By the time I was learning new styles, I already had a decade of editing magic videos under my belt. So the fundamentals did the heavy lifting. If you're just starting out, I'm sorry to say that there's no real way around this part. You'll need to put in the reps. Look up tutorials for the specific effect that you broke down in the dissection phase. Start practicing them now because you can only grow by doing. But maybe that gap is way too wide right now, and reps alone won't close it fast enough. Or maybe you already have some experience, and you don't know if it's worth your time. Just like in video games, when you don't want to grind from scratch, you can sometimes pay to win, or at least make the experience easier. Using editing assets is that shortcut, and that's why I'm excited Happy Editing is sponsoring this video. I used to hate using pre-made assets because I thought real editors built everything themselves. I wanted to put in the reps, and I wasn't even making enough money to justify buying anything. But for client work and building out my portfolio, assets and templates ended up saving me so much time. And more importantly, it closed the gap faster, which meant I could take on bigger clients who paid me more. I've been using happy editing assets for the past 5 or 6 years because it fits the exact aesthetic I need for commercials, promos, and product videos that I work on. The trick to using editing assets is finding ones you'll know that you'll keep using, the ones that fit the style you often cut most. Their master bundle is the toolbox I keep going back to because it has all of my frequently used assets. Their film grain, overlays, and CRT textures show up in almost every video I edit. That's why I'm always happy having them sponsor my channel again and again. Check this out. This is a sequence just on its own. And here's one with happy editing assets. If you want to try it out yourself, you can click the pop-up right over here or the link in the description below. Thank you, Happy Editing, for sponsoring this video. This might be the densest level of the 5, but it's also the most important one. Because without it, your work will drown in a sea of everyone else's. So you know the bar, you've dissected the best, and even closed a bit of the skill gap. There's 2 situations you might be in. Scenario 1 is that you've got experience in one type of video. Maybe it's weddings, real estate, corporate, whatever, and you're trying to pivot into something new. Scenario 2 is that you've got barely any experience at all and you're choosing your very first style. In either of them, you might think, okay, I just need to copy whoever's the best. And you're kind of right, because you do want to emulate the parts of that style that matter. But which parts matter is up to your taste. Our example is cutting vertical social content for coaches. So maybe you decided that quick captions, full screen stock footage, and graphics popping in is the core structure. The trick is to apply what you already know and already like to those building blocks. So let's say you used to cut perfume commercials. That means you already know how to pick fonts that feel expensive instead of cheap. You've got an eye for stock footage that looks cinematic instead of cheesy. Maybe you lean towards full screen graphics instead of static images popping up from the corner of the screen. When you bring in things people don't normally see in social content, it stops you from being a commodity. Because if every editor in the space follows the exact same playbook, why should they hire you? Even if you don't have experience yet, you can apply the exact same logic. Just pull inspiration from other sources. Maybe you watched thousands of hours of anime instead of cutting commercials. Borrow the bold captions. Swap live footage for animation. Bring in manga-style graphics. These can be applied to those same building blocks. You're not starting from nothing just because you don't have experience. You still start from your taste. Following the first 4 levels gives you a clear path. But the truth is, there's no EXP bar telling you when you've leveled up. There's no notification or final boss. The only way to measure how far you've come is by putting your work next to what you've made previously. And I promise, each one will look better. To others, it'll look like you've done it 1,000 times.